Handheld Legend finally dropped the GC Ultimate, which aims to be the ultimate GameCube controller. It's a wireless controller with Hall effect sticks, snapback filters, a split D-pad, analog or digital triggers, gyro, light up buttons, swappable stick gates, all the extra Switch buttons, and it works with the Switch, Switch 2, PC, Mac, iPhone, Android, NES, SNES, N64, Wii, Wii U, and of course, the GameCube. The only problem is, Nintendo just released a brand new GameCube controller for the Switch 2 that feels pretty darn good too, but without a lot of the features that I just listed. So in today's video, I'm going to put these controllers through their paces to see if you should go for the Ultimate or save a little money and go for Nintendo's latest. Or, keep rolling with your 25-year-old original. I may not be a Smash Bros. Professional, but I've been playing GameCube since the dawn of time. Well, since the dawn of my video game career, because this was my very first home console, and I still play it very regularly. I've also been testing out a bunch of GameCube and GameCube adjacent controllers over the years, trying to find the best modern version of this. But maybe the best version of the GameCube controller is just the original. This is my childhood controller. It may not have much for fancy features, but I still think it's one of the coolest colorways ever. The iconic indigo on top with a clear bottom so you can see the rumble motor spin. Beautiful. Some of them may have stick drift, but this one right here is the perfect amount of worn in. It may be permanently wired, yeah, but you can still plug it into a Wii U, Switch, Switch 2, or a PC with a cheap adapter. And if you really want a wireless GameCube controller, the Wavebird is just as awesome too. It just unfortunately does not work with those USB adapters. And if you don't already have one, they can be just as expensive as the next one I'm going to talk about. The new and improved wireless GameCube controller for Nintendo Switch Online. It looks and feels just like the original, only a little heavier because of the rechargeable battery, and it has a few extra buttons that are barely noticeable. So there really isn't much else to say about this NSO controller that I haven't already said about the original because they're so similar. The NSO controller only comes in one color, solid indigo, but it can be used wired or wirelessly. However, it can really only be used with the Switch 2 specifically, not even the original Switch. And even if you want to use it with your PC, you have to do some tomfoolery to get it to work. So it's not nearly as versatile as the 2-decade-old beast. It's really only meant for playing the classics catalog, but you can use it with plenty of other titles on the Switch too. If you want a versatile controller, that's the GC Ultimate. Did you hear how many devices I listed off in the intro? It practically connects to everything other than the Xbox or PlayStation. But even then, I could probably find an adapter to make it work. Which I should mention, you will need to purchase these cables separately if you want to connect the GC Ultimate to the NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Wii, or Wii U. Honestly, I don't see the need to connect this controller to the first three, but if you just get the GameCube cord, you can use it with the latter three consoles, including any of the modded GameCubes I sell on my website, retroremaster.com. It'll also work with my modded N64s, but I think it goes better with the GameCube. The GC Ultimate is also the most customizable GameCube controller I've ever seen. For starters, you have a few shell colors to choose from, and you can get different color stick gates because the left stick gate is swappable. On top of that, you have a whole app's worth of different tweaks and customizations to play with. You can change the HD rumble sensitivity, remap the buttons in all the different console modes, and of course change the LED colors. A quick bummer to me is the D-pad and C-stick don't light up. What's up with that? You can also calibrate your sticks, gyro, and triggers, as well as update the controller in the future. Though the customization doesn't stop there. You can have digital triggers that use little keyboard switches, but if you're like me and want full analog triggers, you can also choose between classic springs and the performance springs for less resistance. Another small bummer though is when it's used with Switch consoles, it is recognized as a Pro controller, so it won't have analog trigger support. But since the NSO GameCube controller is out now, I'm hoping there will be an update to this controller where they make the Switch 2 think it's a GameCube controller, so we do have analog trigger support. At least on Switch 2, since the Switch 1 doesn't support the NSO GameCube controller. While this looks obviously different from the original GameCube controller, The GC Ultimate's form factor is one-to-one with the original, and I appreciate the changes that they did make, like the second Z button, the extra switch buttons, and especially the split D-pad, because the D-pad is probably the worst thing about the original controller. I do have a few nitpicks though. For some reason, the C-stick has a slightly smaller top than the original, and I don't like that the triggers are more rounded here. I love how the classic triggers hug my fingers, and the softer edges make my fingers slip off the button sometimes. It's not a huge deal, but it's the first thing I noticed, and I genuinely had never thought about how much I loved the shape of the original triggers until I got my grubby little fingers on this. Let's talk pricing. The GC Ultimate starts at $125. It comes with all of the options I've talked about, other than the cables for the retro consoles that cost $11 to $12 each. However, that $125 price tag is for the kit. You have to build it yourself, which isn't as scary as it sounds. It's completely solderless, and Handheld Legend has a solid tutorial that's easy enough to follow along with. The only problem I had was I pinched the wire here, which caused my left trigger to constantly be held down. I eventually figured it out with the help of someone on Discord, and I don't think you'll have any troubles with it as long as you mind the trigger wires. But you can spend an extra $50 to have it made to order for you. You just won't get all the extra bits if you want to change out the triggers or something later. While it does sound expensive, I think with all the features you're getting here, it's absolutely worth $125. There are only a few minor build quality improvements that I think should be made for this price. Like, mine came with black marks in the shell. They won't come off no matter what I clean it with, and it came out of the box like this. I think it has to do with the injection molding, but oh well. And also, the gaps between the shell halves are a little bigger than I'd like, and it will probably accumulate more hand gunk over the years. But what about the NSO controller? It goes for $70 and it is fully built for you, but you have to be a Switch Online member to even buy it. I think you can buy it with just the standard subscription, but you can't play the GameCube classics without the expansion pack. So the cost is really more like $120 after you pay $50 for the 1 year of subscription. Though you could argue that for any GameCube controller, so it's probably not fair to include the price of NSO in just the price of this controller. We also have to take into consideration that you can buy a refurbished GameCube controller and an adapter for even less, and you might already have both of those things, so you could consider this as a free option. The question really is, are you willing to pay about an extra $50 for all the features that the GC Ultimate has? Are you someone who struggles with stick drift or notices the little things like snapback? The answer might just be yes. Or will you be just as satisfied spending less on the NSO controller? Or heck, are you gonna be happy with just an original? Honestly, you probably will. These are all good options. At the end of the day, the GC Ultimate is a fantastic controller. And while the link for it in the description is an affiliate link, I just want to remind everyone, it's not the tools that make us better. It's the skill and experience. So the GC Ultimate will not make you better at Smash Bros. The NSO controller won't make you any faster in Mario Kart. And there will never be a controller that will let you beat me in Super Mario Strikers. Speaking of those games, my friend Mikey and I played all three while testing out these controllers. And if you want to watch us play and hear both of our extended thoughts live and unscripted, I'll have a link to that video on the second channel, Jake64, in the description. Let me know what you think about all of these controllers in the comments down below, and thank you to Handheld Legend for sending this out to me for free for review. But that's about it for me. So like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later, guys.
I'm in first place. I gotta kind of like lock in.
What was
here.
that?
Never mind.